Hi, my name is Alycia Kaback, and this is VisionCraft Coffee in the Green Room. And today I have a very special guest, Bryan Dulaney. Hi, Bryan.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well. Nice ring, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice ring for you as well.
Oh, yeah, right. Boom.
Right, boom.
Boom. All right. So you are, man, when I think funnels, I think Bryan Dulaney. You work with the top 1% of the 1%. And that is impeccable. And I see we're here with our book. But before we get into this amazing book right here, I want you to start, take us from the top on your journey. What kind of inspired you to get into funnels, of all things?
So I was at Liberty University. I was working on my MBA because, quite frankly, I didn't want to get a job.
Of course.
So I just kept the student loan roll going, right? And as I was working on my MBA, I was like, you know what? I got to figure out how I can create a business, create income for myself, how I can provide for myself and not have to get a job. And so I went down the real estate route first. And so I was like studying real estate, going to real estate workshops, seminars.
I did mortgages, so I totally understand.
Remember,
it's going to be a lot of work.
All that stuff, right? And so I ended up I was kind of headfirst into commercial real estate because I got allured into the opportunity of no money, no credit.
Right.
I was like, it's based on the property's credit. I was like, oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Right. That sounds like a better, let's go faster. Let's go acquire a commercial property rather than single family homes. And I was at a real estate convention in Vegas with about 50,000 people. It was all real estate investors and commercial in the commercial game. And I sat with this dude and he was like in his 80s. And he was one of my brokers.
Old school.
I mean, but he was like decked to the nine. Him and his wife, they were so cute. They were like in their 80s. And he's like, I've done over $2 trillion of real estate transactions.
Trillion with a T.
Trillion with a T. I'm like, trillion with a T. That's why I asked him, like, trillion? Like, that's insane.
That's a weird, I've never
met anyone in my life that has done $2 trillion in transactions.
Okay. So,
and this was like 2005. Okay.
Oh, okay.
2005-ish. And he was asking me like, well, why do you want to get into commercial real estate? Like, you're so young.
Why? Yeah.
Right. And I was like, well, I want to create wealth. And this is a great way to do it. He's like, I agree. He's like, listen, the market's about to turn. Like, it's about to go sour.
Right.
He's like, I've been in this game since I was in my early 20s, like you are now. He's like, I'd recommend go work for like CBRE or go work for a big firm, learn on their dime, and then use that learning to then get into the game.
Right.
And that was not what I wanted to hear, right? Like, I was like, no, I don't want to get a job. Like,
no.
And so
it's not on the table for me.
Between the two of those things, he really was discouraging. He was like, bro, he's like, real estate is going to take a massive hit.
That's like right during the time everybody was going under.
Yeah. Yep. And then 2008 hit and boom, right? So I was like, all right, well, I got to figure out a different move
I need
here.
An alternate plan.
I need an alternate plan. Yeah. So I started 2005. I got really heavy into personal development. I discovered Napoleon Hill.
Oh.
I discovered Og Mandino.
Right.
All the greats. And I was like, hold on a second. Why have I not learned this in elementary school, middle school, high school, college? Right. Like, where's this been all my life?
Because they don't teach it. Yeah.
No, they don't teach it. And I fell in love with it. It was just fascinating. And on that journey, I stumbled into guys who were doing internet marketing, like Joe Vitale, Joe Polish, some of the old school guys, Dan Kennedy. And I just started just learning as much as I could.
Yeah.
Went from, I was binging.
Extreme.
I didn't date for 2 years. I was like fully in it. Because Tony Robbins' story is like, he went 2 years and that's all he did. He immersed himself. And I was like, well, if I'm going to model success, I might as well model this
Tony
guy.
is, the OG. Yeah.
Yep. So I joined a challenge. How I got into it was I joined a challenge for 30 days and it was $1 challenge. Okay. So I had to pay to play. And so I joined, and the way it was architected was really smart at the time. It's more common now, but think about this was back in 2006. And so it was you'd watch a video and you'd do some like basically fast action assignments. You do work, right? So by day 7 of buying my first domain name, I had an email that said you made a sale and it was for $750. It was a $750 commission.
That's awesome.
And I was like, oh my God, like this worked.
Happened. Yeah.
I had no idea how that happened, but it happened.
Yeah. Yay.
And so that's what got me in. And then I was like, all right, I need to make this happen every day.
What would happen if I just went all in?
Yep. And so then, I don't know, a couple months after that of just like studying as much as I could find, I was like, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a faster path. I need to find someone who has the results I want and is where I want to be. And so I found this guy out of Australia, and he didn't even have a coaching program. But I bought a product through him and as part of the bonus, you got like an hour Skype call.
Oh.
I was like, sweet. So I got the Skype call and I was like, hey, like, can you mentor me? He's like, I don't have a mentorship offer. I was like, well, dude, like, what do I need to pay you to just mentor me? Like, I just
cut a check for speed.
We'll get on a call. You tell me what to do. I'll go do it. Like, I'm an action guy.
Yeah.
And so I ended up talking him into it. He was very reluctant, but
you're good at sales.
From one call after that, literally, I launched a $500 ad campaign, made $20,000 in sales, $10,000 in commissions in 3 days.
That's a pretty good ROI.
And I was like, all right, I'm done paying for this MBA. Like, what's the point?
Why? Why am I doing this? Why am I going to be in debt? Yeah,
exactly.
There's got to be a better way.
Exactly.
So then how did you get involved with ClickFunnels?
Well, I've known Russell for a long time.
Yeah.
Him and I have been friends at Traffic and Conversion Summit.
Okay.
With Ryan Dice and Perry Belcher that started that company and then sold it. But I was there in 2014. Him and I were there and we saw each other. And I had already bought a bunch of products from Russell in the past. And he was already using me as a testimonial on a lot of things. He had this Craigslist software that would like go basically pull and scrape, and it was working to generate local leads. Business clients, right? And so I saw him there. I'm like, hey, what's up? And he's like, I'm launching this new funnel builder, this new funnel platform. And 2012 had launched a alternative WordPress. It was a WordPress plugin for building funnels.
Okay.
It was like, I was tired of seeing all the same cookie cutter stuff, which back in that time was Optimized Press. Everybody was using Optimized Press. It was like the ClickFunnels of today, but it was all the same, like just boring, ugly, direct response pages.
Same ad. Yeah.
It was, and everyone was just modeling and copying everyone. Yeah. And so I was like, man, this is boring. Different. We need something fresh and that stands out and different. And so that's why I built the platform, the WordPress plugin for doing it. So he knew that. And so he's telling me about this thing. He's like, yeah, we're going to call it Success, etc. I'm like, hold on, what?
Wait, what? No.
Success, etc. I don't know. He's like, well, we're thinking about calling it ClickFunnels. I was like, yeah, you definitely should call it that instead of
the whole ClickFunnels thanks you, the whole community, because that's a good story.
Yeah. And then I bought, because I'm an affiliate. I started as an affiliate, so I think through the affiliate lens. So I bought ClickFunnelsBonus.com, ClickFunnelsReviews.com. Like,
go bigger,
I secured all those like that week.
Yeah.
Because I knew he was going to do something with it.
And I read on your website, 5 cars. Is that you?
Yeah, 5 cars through ClickFunnels as an affiliate.
Yeah.
Which is great. Thank you, ClickFunnels.
What was your first car that you picked?
Well, the way that it worked is they basically gave you an extra $500 in commission.
Okay.
From your sales. Okay. So they just added an extra $500 and then you could put that towards whatever you want.
Okay.
So it's really like, I didn't really pick a car. Like, it probably went towards my Lexus or whatever I was driving at the time.
Some people go way out.
An extra $500, like, it's not going to get me
a Lamborghini.
Anything crazy.
Yeah.
You know.
All right.
And and then the other level was like, then once you hit the next, like 100 accounts got you an extra $500 commission a month. So an extra $6,000 a year. And then once you hit 200 accounts, then you got $1,000 a month.
Starts coming.
But then it capped. I'm like, guys, why don't we do the Dream House Award?
Yeah.
Like, when I push 500 accounts, when I have 500 active users, give me $2,500 a month, and that'll go towards my mortgage or whatever. Right?
Yeah.
They never did it, but I thought it was a good idea.
So Russell, if you're hearing this, let's start it. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So let's talk about, for anybody who's unfamiliar, perfect funnel.
Yep.
There's so many people that are part of ClickFunnels, and they're always, what is the perfect funnel? What would you say?
So I started the term perfect funnel system before funnels was a word in 2012.
Okay.
I woke up in the middle of the night. I was in Hawaii, second night, and I had just transitioned out of a surf. So we did a lot of SEO back in the day. And so we had 1,000 websites where we could post, and they had different PR levels, basically different weights to their scores based on how the search engines viewed them. Right. So PR1, PR2, PR4, 5, 6, 8, whatever. So we had a wide variety of sites that were all on their own IP addresses. Anyways, this is a little bit techno-babble, but we had 1,000 websites that we could post content to and get links back to our website, and it would skyrocket our rankings.
So it would boost.
It would boost it, yeah. So I started a site called Super Fast Link Building.
Okay.
And it took off. I spent zero on advertising. It went from 0 to 70,000 a month in recurring continuity in 90 days or less.
So that's super fast.
Super fast. Right.
Name said it all.
Name said it all. And then Google had their first algorithm update, their first animal update, I call it. It was called Panda. And I call it the death of blog networks, because what happened was Google went out to everybody who had analytics on their website and said, hey, if you're doing link building, tell us and we won't blacklist you.
Oh.
It was a
We'll put you on
total
the safe
lie.
list.
It was a total lie because they actually blacklisted them anyways. It was a total bait and switch.
Huh.
But some of our users reported that that's where they came from. So we lost those 1,000 websites in 10 days. We were losing 100
super
sites
fast, lost
a
it
day.
super fast.
Yeah.
Eeks.
And I was super close to having 5 really big affiliates that would have scaled that puppy to $1 million a month. And I was like,
so close.
So close.
But you knew you built it right. So you could do it again.
I built it right. I was like, I can do it again. Now, we also had another 1,000 websites that were private. We didn't let anyone touch them.
Right.
And that didn't get touched.
The reserves.
But that was a $750,000 asset that evaporated in 10 days.
It just made my stomach turn.
Yeah.
Just thinking about it.
Yeah. So I went to Hawaii. I was like, all right, I need a reset.
Yeah.
So,
what better place?
So we went to Hawaii for 2 months. Okay. And I was like, I need a reset. I need to like re-envision. And I woke up in the middle of the night and Perfect Funnel System hit me just as clear as day. And not a single person on the planet had anything to do with funnels. Like there was no funnel anything at the time. Although it was the internal language of what we would talk about as marketers of what we were building, right? It was not just a website, it's a funnel.
Yeah.
Right? And so so I guess I was ahead of my time. But a perfect funnel system to me is the system for capturing leads, converting sales, and creating a movement of raving fans. Right?
That's most important.
That's what it is. And I would propose that building a movement and a tribe around a new identity is 100x multiplier than just capturing leads and selling stuff.
Right.
So I never launch anything anymore unless we're building a movement.
I hate to even compare Taylor Swift, but that's what I mean, if you think about it, the Swifties, they're strong.
That's a movement. It's a movement for sure. 100%.
Yeah. 100%. See, we got to incorporate Taylor Swift. Okay. So what are some of the most common mistakes you see?
Common mistakes?
Yeah. Common mistakes. Especially when somebody's trying to set up a sales funnel.
Yeah.
I mean, what works, do you think?
So a lot of people, I think a mistake is copying.
Okay.
A lot of people want to just like, oh, Russell's doing this or, oh, Grant Cardone's doing this. And they just want to they want a model, but like it's borderline copying.
Yeah. It's like funnels with their corporation.
So then it's not different, original, and unique. I always ask people to think about what makes you different, better, and unique than anyone else in the market. Because that's how you stand out. And that's how, like what makes you different, what makes you unique. Right. And if you can't answer that question, you just need to take some time, take a reset,
for 2 months.
Go to Hawaii and figure it out. Right. You'll figure it out in Hawaii. That's for sure. So I would say that's one. Another one I would say is trying to do it all yourself.
Right.
There's so many components. Like you can't be the jack of all trades and think you're going to make.
There's so many layers.
There's so many layers, right? I always say this, like Tony Robbins didn't become a billionaire. He's worth over $7 billion. Right. He didn't do that by himself, right? He has a huge team around him that are brilliant in their zone
They're
of
almost
genius.
like the Avengers. They all have their own superpower.
Yep. Same with Russell. Russell didn't build a $120 million a year company by doing himself. The dude has 400 employees. Okay. Yeah. So success leaves clues, right?
Yeah.
Now, in the beginning, I get it. Like I tried to do everything myself too. And that was like a huge mistake because it just took forever to be able to figure it out. I was trying to do the design.
Yeah.
Be trying to do the tech, trying to create the offers, trying to do the videos. Like it's just too much. You're like, it's like juggling a bunch of balls in the air.
And you're dropping a lot of balls.
And you're dropping a lot of them.
You're dropping a lot of balls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be another one. And I would say a third one would be the next step up from that would be hiring amateurs.
Right.
And I see this happen a lot where people go and they're like, they hire out of lack of budget.
Right. I was going to say.
And lack of creativity because budget resources is a lack of resourcefulness, not a lack of resources.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's tons of creative ways to hire people that are the best in the world at what they do without having to come out of pocket $1 million.
Right. Because that's an expensive lesson to learn, not just in time, but also money.
Well, typically people come to me after they've hired a bunch of the wrong people and nothing works. And they're like, all right, Dulaney, here I am. If you can't figure it out, no one can. Like I've heard that over and over and over again at this point.
But I kind of like the fact that you're like one of the last resorts because they know they're going to come to you and it's tried and true.
Right. They know we're premium.
Yeah.
But with that comes our track record.
Right. Which, judging from the book, I mean,
yeah,
you seem to be the epitome. So that's good. Okay. So impact of technology. How much has, technology has evolved greatly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now we're dealing with AI. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts? I mean, just the whole world.
Technology is going to constantly evolve.
Yeah.
Technology, AI is like a hammer, right? It can be used for good and it can be used for bad. right? Like literally, you can kill someone with a hammer or you can build a home.
Right.
Right. So I think it's how you use it. I think the caution with AI is if you're using something like ChatGPT and you are putting all your intellectual property into it and you're creating from that place, you don't actually own your IP anymore. They do.
Right.
A lot of people don't know that.
Right.
Right. So they're just using it and they're like, you're technically giving over your intellectual property to that company.
Right.
And the people who own that company.
Trade.
So if you're going to use AI, like use platforms like Claude, use other platforms that are not going to own your intellectual property. Because like as an expert, right, that's all you have. You have your intellectual property.
And we can kind of tell the difference when people like just copy paste.
For sure. It all kind of sounds the same and looks the same. And
again, you have to be different.
Different platforms have different ideological beliefs. I've tested it. I mean, I've seen the ideological beliefs.
Right.
So you've got to watch if your ideological beliefs are different than the AI and you're putting your intellectual property into the ideological belief that's the opposite of you.
It's like conflicting stories.
It's conflicting and it's not going to resonate with your audience.
Right. So,
who are you trying to attract? There is some really valuable, you can clone yourself. Again, you just got to be careful with where you put your intellectual property so that you own it. That's my biggest concern for that. But there's really cool developments that are happening
every second.
Yeah, like you can call a number and then AI can basically pull from your database of knowledge and answer that question as if it was you. Like that's pretty powerful and that's a game changer.
That is a game changer.
That's a game changer.
Totally. Okay, so success stories. You've worked with some of the most amazing people in the world, but let's talk about some of the people you've helped. Mm-hmm. Anybody come to mind?
Well, I mean, I love, tons of people, but I love the ones.
You work with the top 1% of the 1%.
Yeah. So I mean, people, I've done stuff like for Russell, obviously in ClickFunnels and promoting those guys, Tony Robbins being the top affiliate for him. But I like the stories of people that start from nothing, no audience, no brand,
sometimes from
no email list.
They don't even know what they're doing.
Yeah. They like
brand new.
Absolutely nothing. Now, typically I work with people who are experts. So people who have results that other people would want.
Yeah.
That's number one. And number two, they've helped at least a handful of other people reproduce their effort, like reproduce their results.
Right.
That's when they come to me, right? So I'm not working with people that don't have at least that foundation.
Right.
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 But one story I'll tell you is these guys, Brad and Ryan. So they're financial advisors. Okay. And Brad and Ryan and I were both in Russell's highest level mastermind. Now that's called Atlas. It's $250,000 mastermind.
Yeah.
And so we were in Russell's highest level mastermind for several years. And, they're sitting in the audience like me, right? But their whole business was built on referrals. Okay. And so every time they come to the meeting, they would get advice from the room. And, this person would say that, this person would say that, Russell would say this, And so they were getting all these great ideas, but everything that they launched was just falling flat on its face.
Was it like because it was
worked.
like cold traffic? Or was it kind of?
No, that doesn't matter. That doesn't really matter to me. Like we launch campaigns cold traffic all the time.
Okay.
So, but it just wasn't landing. So their narratives weren't landing. At the end of the day, that's what it boils down to. The front end narrative.
Okay.
The funnel is not as important as the narrative and the offer, and then the funnel. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
So I always joke, you're one funnel away. It's like, no, wrong. Like you actually one offer away, and then you're one funnel away. You need a funnel, but you need a really great offer.
Right.
Here's the example I use. So you go to a restaurant. There's one in La Jolla. We used to live in La Jolla. Beautiful place. Love it.
Tomorrow.
Miss it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Dukes. One of my favorites.
Nice. Yeah, best. And so there's this I forget the name, but there's a tiny Mexican joint in La Jolla in the town. And at lunch and dinner, there's a line like literally blocks down the street. Okay. But it is the dumpiest. It looks like a shack, dumpiest thing. But it's like, why are people standing in line? Yeah, it's the fish shop. Like it's got the best fish tacos in town. So people will line up and they'll wait half an hour standing in line outside in the sun to get their tacos. Right.
But if you drove past it, you'd be like, what is happening?
Yeah, if you drove past it
and you didn't know
without the line,
without the
you'd
locals.
be like, I'm not stopping there. It's just kind of sketch. Right. So that's a classic example of the funnel is ugly, but the offer is great.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can have a great offer, an ugly funnel. I can show you ugly funnels that make over 10 million a year. But you can't flip it on its head and have a great looking restaurant and crappy food.
Right.
Now you might go there for the experience.
For the pictures.
Might go there for a drink or two, and then you're out. And you're going to go eat somewhere else. But you're not going to eat the crappy food. You're not going to come back. You're not like, oh yeah, they have amazing food. Like nowadays, we want a great experience and we want amazing food.
Right.
But I want to hammer in the importance of making a really great offer.
Right.
Now, before a really great offer, it all boils down to the narrative. And the narrative is what you're putting out into the world before people ever get to your funnel. Okay? If you're not getting people to your funnel, it's because your narrative sucks. If you're getting a ton of people to your funnel, it means your narrative is pulling the right audience.
Right.
And literally, your narrative can change by 1 or 2 words, and it makes it click.
So for the guys that had the referrals, what was making their landing not stick?
So I came in afterwards, nothing was working, and they're like, all right, Dulaney, if you can't figure out, nobody can. We're just going to go back to referrals because that works. Right? So we met up in La Jolla. We did a strategy day where we just map out like, okay, here's our funnels, here's our offers, here's our narratives.
Laid it all out.
Here's how we're going to, and their objective is really to fill up their mastermind with 100 people at 10K a pop. Right. And they're like, yeah, if we did this over the next year, we would be stoked. Right. Like they'd be like, we'd be on cloud 9.
I could do that in
we
5
will
minutes.
be your biggest, we'll be your biggest raving fans if you can fill our mastermind with 100 people over the next 12
Which
months.
doesn't sound impossible.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So what we did was we wired out a webinar. Okay. And the narrative was how to become financially free in 10 years or less, regardless of your age, income, or experience. And it was targeted towards a demographic of people who have a job. Okay. So just give you a little bit of the lay of the land. Now, after they sit on the webinar, they share their story, they share some secrets about becoming financially free, and then they make an offer. Okay. So the offer was the how to become financially free in 10 years or less.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
That was the actual tangible, like, okay, here's the practical how to do it. The webinar gave some a taste, a sample.
But didn't give away everything. Because Russell says don't educate.
Which is a key, right? And then we did what I call a thank you page webinar.
Okay.
Which is typically a shorter version of a webinar. Okay. So it's like 20 or 30 minutes, but it's positioned as a bonus training. Okay. So remember the end in mind, right? We want to build a movement and a tribe of raving fans that are shouting to the rooftop about your brand. Right? Like we're starting with that in mind, not let's sell some stuff.
Yeah.
So one of the steps in what I call a perfect funnel system, there's 7 steps. One of the steps is delivering awesomeness. Okay. Because on your path to building a movement, you have to over deliver and create raving fans. Right. You have to wow the people.
Which means you have to be a leader.
Which means you have to be a leader. You have to, all the things, right? Yeah. Attractive character, these things. And so the next offer, the thank you page webinar narrative was how to get cash flow coming in 90 days or less without dealing with termites, toilets, and tenants.
Oh.
And acquire what we call autopilot assets. Now, I created that term. Should probably trademark it because my partners haven't trademarked that yet. But autopilot assets.
Process. So for those of you guys, we're already working on it.
Don't worry. I'll get it done before this goes live. So autopilot assets is a term I created because when you build a movement, it's important to have an identity of that movement. Like ClickFunnels has funnel hackers. Right. I have legacy builders. My friends Brandon and Kaylin Pullen had Lady Boss.
Yeah, Lady Boss.
I sold it to Russell, built a $200 million company, teach people how to lose weight and gain confidence back. Specifically teaching Christian women in the United States. Okay. Very niched, but crushed it.
But they banded together. They needed to find each other. When they did, they had strength. Yeah.
Yep. But I would propose that because they focused on building a community and a movement and helping women to step into a new identity.
Yes.
That was the 100x amplifier because there's thousands of people that teach people how to lose weight. Yeah. Right? Like it's not a novel idea.
What makes you different?
Well, what makes them different? They build a movement and they help these women who were not comfortable or confident in their bodies to become the best version of themselves.
Right.
And they did that by giving them a new identity. Right. And that was Lady Boss. And so as you're building your movement, you create a new terminology that creates curiosity and intrigue. Very important to every campaign, whether it's your narratives on the front end, your funnels, everything you do should create intrigue and curiosity. Okay. Campaigns live and die based on that. If they're not curious, they're not going to go in, they're not going to move into it.
Right.
Right. So we created this term autopilot assets, which is a really cool sounding term, right? Like who doesn't want autopilot assets? Which we now own
the copyright. So just so you know, it's trademarked already.
It's trademarked already. And so what happened was we went from webinar to the offer for $497.
Okay.
It's
So low ticket. Yeah.
Yep. So lower ticket, but they were already in the mastermind with Russell. So they understand the value of breaking even, paying for the cost of acquisition, breaking even, and then scaling profits through back end offer, like a mastermind, right?
Right.
So that's where the 10K offer came into play. So, and then we went to an application funnel. So it went webinar, right? Sales funnel, right? To buy the course. Then it went to thank you page, webinar, bonus training, right? And then it went to application, right? And then it went to a phone call center, like a phone call team.
Yeah.
And then they took calls. And actually, Brad and Ryan did the first calls. I said, listen, guys, you guys got to develop the SOPs. Like, don't just try to outsource this job.
You got to find out exactly what works.
Yeah, do it and learn from your customers, right?
We did the same thing.
Dial it in, right? Like, don't just try to push it off to someone else that you were going to hire off
you're not
the street.
Know.
Because they're not going to be as passionate about it as you are. So they listened. Brad and Ryan took all the calls and really dialed the system in. And now they have like 3 full-time people.
But that's fine.
That's all they do. But they went through that process. And anyways, long story short, they filled up their mastermind in 4 months. And it worked so well that they did 10 million in 7 months. Okay. And broke a ton of records because, that's, in the ClickFunnels community, at least, there's not a lot of people that have been able to break 10 million in 7 months.
Right.
So that was a record breaker. And from that, they got on Grant Cardone stage in front of like 20,000 people. Then a couple weeks later, got in front of Funnel Hacking Live, spoke there in front of another 5,000 people because of that result.
And at the beginning, all they wanted to do was what?
All they wanted to do is fill that mastermind with 100 people. Filled it in 4 months and we basically broke all their systems because they had to shut down their ads for
That's a good problem.
6 months.
Then they need a reset.
Then they needed a reset. Yes.
Yeah. So tell us about the new book.
Yeah. So the new book, it's really all about how to build, launch, and scale one funnel and one offer that has the ability to generate $1 million in just 1 month.
1 month.
1 month. We've done it in an hour, in a day, in a week. So a month is like a long time.
Yeah. It's like the 4-minute mile.
Mind.
You could do it.
Right. Yeah. It is. The first $1 million that I ever did, it took forever to figure it out.
Right.
It took forever. And then after you do the first one, and I know people say that, and I remember hearing it and be like, okay, yeah, whatever. But I promise you, once you figure it out, once you crack the code for your market, your audience, your niche, like it just becomes a lot easier as you know.
Yeah. I mean, for us, like we were 2 Comma Club for like 7 years and I felt like we were just in a holding pattern. It's like, okay, what are we doing wrong? What are we doing right? And it was good because we were comfortable with it. But then we took massive risks and I mean, that's what you do.
That's it.
That's it. And I find that when people want to start their business, it always sounds sexy to say you're an entrepreneur, but you really have to, it's a struggle. And you're a good father and you have your little boy out here and I also have a 3-year-old and I work from home, but it's a certain breed. And I find with ClickFunnels, it's like, oh, you get it,
Yeah, it is a certain breed. I've always been an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I can't say that I was like, when I was selling Jolly Ranchers in like 5th grade.
I used to make jewelry.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I think you have to have it. You have to have that hunger for innovation.
It's not about the money. It's a passion.
It's a passion.
A burning. Yeah.
Right. Like, give a little funny story here that I like to share is that, when I was 3 years old, my parents woke up one day and I literally unscrewed my entire crib.
What?
Every screw.
That would.
And I was on the floor
nervous.
with my screwdriver. I called it a screw die. And I was just sitting on the floor with my screwdriver. My parents were like, I guess it's time for a bed. And I was only 3. Like, I don't know how I mustered up enough strength as a 3-year-old to find a screwdriver to then sneak it into the bedroom, and then to unscrew it from the inside. It still baffles me to how that was even possible.
That's crazy, but that's cool.
Yeah, it's a cool story, right?
Yeah.
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 For years, until like a couple of years ago, I didn't realize. I thought I just like unscrewed like half of it, like the one side, and let myself out. My dad's like, no. You unscrewed every single screw. He's like, you took the whole thing apart. Like, you're like, I'm getting out of here. I'm getting out of this box.
Yeah.
And as an entrepreneur, we don't like to be put in boxes.
No,
we don't want to be
not at all
constrained.
Yeah.
We want the freedom to be able to do what we want, when we want, where we want, right?
Right.
Like I think an entrepreneur has that internal drive for freedom on all levels.
And it's never just about the money. It's you wake up, and I always like to say you get rewarded in public for kicking butt in private. So what does a typical day look like for you now?
Well, and I would say for me, like if you can find a way to match your spiritual calling with what you do for business,
keep it in alignment.
It'll eliminate tug of war. Like, I don't know about you, but for me, so I died and came back to life. Another story for another day. But in 2003, I woke up in a hospital bed with doctors singing "He's alive," and I came out of a coma. And the doctor said, I've never seen anyone with your severe condition live, let alone be able to comprehend what I'm saying. Your blood alcohol level coming in here last night was 0.39 and 0.40 is dead. So you're literally one shot from death. He called my parents, said your son's going to either die or be brain dead for life. That was,
oh my gosh.
That was the call. I mean, who makes that call? And so when I woke up, he was flabbergasted and he's like, God must have a plan and purpose for life. That was the doctor said this. God must have a plan and purpose. I can't explain this situation. And I came out like completely unscathed. I was protected. And so I went on a journey to figure out what my purpose was. And it was 2005, Liberty University. And the download I call them downloads or promptings.
Right.
And the download I got was share your story and help other people share theirs. That's it. That's all God gave me. That was it. I was like, what does that mean? You know? And it wasn't for a decade that I figured out what that meant. And I had for a solid decade from 2006 to 2016, I was like, why in the world am I building funnels, launching campaigns, running advertising why am I doing all this stuff? Like, it was a struggle. It was, I call it, the spiritual struggle between business and, the spiritual things that you feel called to be a part of. Right. And it was in 2016, God had sent me someone who was a ex-strip club owner, converted pastor, and he was raising $10 million to eradicate waterborne illness in the country of Liberia.
Okay. And
he wanted to use funnels and create courses and create knowledge rather than begging churches for raising money.
Right.
Right. Like, totally.
Then you're like being helped.
That sucks. Like as a pastor, that I know the burden of that.
Yeah.
It's hard. I've raised money for missions and it's never fun begging for money.
Right.
So that's when it clicked. It was like, what I do in business is I help people to share their story. And that's how they're able to generate income on demand. They're able to create a life that they love. And they're able to change the world as well. And literally my business was like growing, right? Like 2016, it was growing. As soon as I aligned spiritual and business together, the business took off literally like a rocket. It was like this trajectory because I didn't have that tug of war anymore.
Right.
So I would encourage everyone listening, find a way to tie what you do into the things that God is calling you to do. If you feel God's really calling you to do something in the world, to do something, that's
and something you're passionate about.
Something you're passionate. You've got to be passionate about it. Like, you've got to love what you do.
Yeah.
You really do.
Never work a day in your life.
Because then you're not working. You're just creating and having fun. Yeah.
Helping others.
Yep.
How do you balance family with
family?
Everything?
So, so we do several trips a year where we'll go, like the summer, we're going to Montana for a month.
Oh, fun.
Yep. So we do that. I have, time in the morning with the kids. Like we have our morning rhythm. I call them morning rhythms, not rituals, but rhythms, because it's like more fun and
consistency.
More like a dance than it is like a hard thing to do.
Right.
Rituals.
Right.
Like
I get to do.
Yeah, I get to do this. And this is fun to do, and it's playful.
Yeah.
Right. So I do that with the kids, and I think that's important. And it's been really great to see the kids really adopt it as their own and want to do it.
That's fun.
Like they wake up being, okay, let's do let's do our morning rhythms today. Like they're talking about it. And my daughter's 4 and my son's 2 and my other son is 5 months. So he's not there yet. He's not on the morning rhythm path with us right now.
Not yet. It's coming.
Not yet. By the way, that's my next book, Morning Rhythms.
That's a good one.
So that, and then after I'm done work, I'll do things with the kids, and I think it's important to date your wife and do date nights. And I think that's how you keep marriages healthy. That's
Resetting,
one of the ways.
recalibrating, I call it.
Yeah.
Because it's hard.
Yeah.
One thing I do.
Especially with kids, right? It's tough.
And I work from home. I was in New York and LA for like 8 years.
Yeah.
And now I'm working from home, no office setting. And I'm like, oh my, right. How do you even reset? And my rule is in my house, no matter how many Zooms I'm on, I take a shower and I like recalibrate myself so I can come back as a mom and a wife.
Nice.
Because I feel like it's so important, because sometimes you can't turn it on and off.
True.
And I go into work mode. I'm like, wait. No, it's our time, you know?
True.
So sometimes you have to.
Yeah, you have to reset, shut the phones down for,
it's so
we have
important.
windows of like
just
no tech, shut down the phones, like
reconnect,
put it in, iPhone jail.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, you do this because you're passionate, but you're also passionate about your family. And,
for sure. 100%. Like I'm responsible. The first 7 years.
And you set the tone. Yeah.
Is the most important time for a child's life. We now know, I mean, my parents didn't know this stuff, but you're beginning to program your children 3rd trimester. Programming begins in the 3rd trimester. Believe it or not.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I found that out right before we had our first daughter. So I was like, wow, I was fascinated by that. Programming actually begins in the third trimester. So what you speak and your tonality and your energy, all that matters because the baby is picking that up.
I'm thinking of all the funnel hacking lives I've done and the unleash the powers and oh my goodness,
When you're
walking on
pregnant.
fire.
Yeah.
Good times.
So I think, and then I do, personally, I do daddy-daughter dates. I do daddy-son excursions.
Okay.
We don't call them dates. We call them
Yeah,
excursions.
of course.
Right?
Yeah.
Right now we're on a daddy-son excursion.
Yeah. And
he's out of his element.
Not only has his iPad, but he's trying to use the mouse. So, yeah. And he's 2.
Yes.
He's like, why isn't the mouse working? Yeah. But it's a sign of brilliance because that's what he's used to.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you wish somebody told you about being an entrepreneur, building funnels, or just
earlier in my career?
Yeah. Or like your biggest aha, like, man, I wish I knew this, for anybody listening that maybe on a journey that's stuck or just.
Yeah. So I think earlier in my career, I leveraging partnerships, right? Like 1 + 1 can equal 11, not 2.
Right.
Through strategic partnerships. And so I wished I would have focused more on the relational side of partnerships and even people, because the first several years, it was like, I'm going to figure this out from higher hell water, right? And I just figured it out. Like my dad always taught me, and this was in a completely different context, but he would always say that, Bryan, there's no such thing as I can't. There's only I can and I will. Now that was because I didn't want to do the yard work.
Right.
Of course. But it stuck with me that there is no such thing as can't. There is no goal that you can't accomplish. It's just a matter of being resourceful.
Right.
Right. And figuring out the way. But I wished I would have not slaved away at trying to do it all myself and figure it all myself and learn it all myself and aligned with people that are smarter than me. Right. Like Henry Ford was challenged.
Right.
Back in the day. Right. And he was challenged on his intellect. And when he was in some courtroom setting, he basically said, these questions are ridiculous. I have a row of push buttons on my desk that I can push to get any of these stupid questions answered at any time. And they shut up because they realized he was really smart because he surrounded himself with brilliant people. So success leaves clues, right? I mean, Henry Ford built an amazing brand that's still alive and well. And so we should learn from that. And
even from your book, having a testimonial from Tony Robbins.
That was great. I couldn't have.
That is beyond.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tony. I was one of his top 5 affiliates 2 years in a row.
That's awesome.
Promoting the biggest launches in history. They did $40 and $50 million, both launches. I was driven by that because I wanted to be in the top 10.
Right.
And I wanted to be able to go to Fiji and pick Tony's brain.
Go to the house.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So I wanted, you can't pay. You can't even pay for that. Like,
no, it's priceless. Yeah, it's priceless.
It's priceless, right? And so everybody else, all the affiliates on the first launch, they weren't even spending any money on ads. And I put like $135,000 in ads because I was like, well, how much would I spend to
normally
be privately on Tony's Island in Fiji, Namale?
That's like the price that we pay for the
How
platinum.
much would I pay? I'd probably pay $150,000.
Well worth it.
Right? So I was like, well, I can at least put this into this campaign. I know
win-win.
That I'm going to make my money back from affiliate commissions. I made like $500,000 from affiliate commissions just from that one launch. And so that was a no-brainer. So I basically masterminded with Tony in Fiji for free.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Talk about proximity, proof, and power.
And how I got him to say, I'm the top 1% of all market funnel experts in the world is because I did the math on the number of awards we won and the revenue we've produced for our clients and our partners.
Did you spreadsheet Tony Robbins? Did you show him?
No. I put on my landing pages, I put the top 1% of the top 1%. Because when you do the math, it's actually top 1% of the top 1%. But he just took top 1% and said, and then he introduced me on stage in front of 100 of their top super affiliates. And he just introduced me as that. I was like, oh, sweet.
I'll take it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll take it.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then Russell came back and wrote the foreword for my first book, Entrepreneur Evangelist.
Yeah.
And he actually doubled down and wrote it again.
Of course, it's Russell.
Yes. Yeah. So thank you, Russell.
Yeah.
Because he, doubled down on that for me.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you so much for doing this today.
It's been great.
It's been so fun. And I'm so excited for everybody listening. VisionCraft is coming. We are so excited. So if you're an entrepreneur and looking to get in the top 1%, You got to surround yourself with the right people.
Correct.
And
truly.
Masterminds, cut a check for speed.
Yep.
Go with the best. Don't try to reinvent the wheel or take apart a Cribbit too. I mean, I'm still thinking about that.
Yeah.
Man, success leaves clues.
That's right.
You had to find a way to get out.
Yep.
Make an impact.
Yep.
And I thank you so much.
Yeah.
We better check on your kid before he takes apart that
desk. Yeah, let's go. Yeah. Right. It's in his genes.
It is. All right. Success leaves clues. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been great. Thank you.
Pick up the book.
Boom.